Here's just a little agenda of what we're going over. Today we'll be covering report templates and setup. So reports. NLign Reports allows you to create a report template and use it to output trendable data and images as a Word or Excel document. These reports are good for exporting NLign data in a standard format that is printer friendly and easy to read. NLign supports both Word and Excel document types as a template, and we use tags to represent NLign data. Here we can see some examples of the tags we would use. We'll get more in depth on these in a second, but I want to point out for a full list of available tags, you can reference the user manual. If you click the question mark icon anywhere in the system and search for body tags, we actually have an entire page dedicated to the different tags that you can call and what object or data that will pull into a report. So here's an example of what your basic two-page report template would look like. Notice that there is page break right in the center. This is to illustrate that you would still format these similar to how you would actually want the report to look. So you can't just cram a bunch of tags at the top and expect it to come out how you want. There's still a bit of formatting here. So this would be done in like a Word document. You could do this in Excel, like I mentioned. You create these and you save them in the NLign system, and this is the actual template that you're calling. So you can see some of the tags, our tags illustrated here. You can see these section tags at the top of each page indicating where we are at on the report. You can also see the written in model views and damage table down here in the blue font. These are static and will be displayed the same way on a generated report. So this section will result in a view of the model using a single user-selected trendable of type inspection. So I just want to elaborate a little bit on that. We see this $ and bracket that indicate the start of a tag up here. And then it says views. This indicates that we want a view or image of the model. Here the views tag is what we call our data type. Everything that follows that is what we would call an attribute. So we build these strings of data types and attributes to help us better define what information is going in on our report. Up top, we have the section. That's our data type. And then we have a label called model view. Down below, we've got the view data type, a label for torque deck damage. And then we have a scope. The scope attribute is making us define how much information we want brought into our view. In this case, we are saying the user will select one trendable to use as a reference. This is followed by the trendable type tag, indicating that this is for an inspection trendable type. So this section will result in a table of trendables, the contents of which will be user defined. So again, I want to give a little bit more information on this. The trending table tag is our data type. Then we have a label for it, followed by the trendable type tag, indicating that this is for a discrepancy. Then the scope, which is user defined. This means that our user will determine the contents we are putting into the table. This is different from the tag above, as we were able to tell the system which trendables to bring in. Before, we just gave it one single trendable as a reference. And then we have a series of column tags indicating what columns to bring into our table. Before we move on, I just want to say again, there's an entire section of tags in the user manual. I don't think we'll get into all of them today, but I want you all to see how these reports and tags are sort of built out. So now we're going to get into how you actually add these report templates. We'll talk more about the setup here towards the end, but this is actually using the report templates within NLign. So to access your report templates, you'll go to the Edit tab up at the top and then Report Templates down here. This is the Report Templates Management window. This gives you a list of loaded report templates. Also in the Report Template Management screen, you can add, edit, or delete a template. There are also these paperclip icons. The one on the left will open the selected template in Microsoft Word or Excel. The paperclip on the right will download the selected template. So this is the icon that you would use to actually generate a report. So anytime you want to actually use one of your report templates after you've added them, you use this icon up here. This is the generate report screen that the icon will open up. From here, you choose the report template that you want and click select. Once you have selected the report you would like to generate, a window may appear that contains a list of trendables of the type given in the report template. This list is only called up if there's a scope attribute in the template and that is set to reference trendable. This forces the user to select the trendable they want to reference. So you would click the trendable you want on the report and hit select. Once you've made your selection, the report generation wizard will show up. Depending on the report template that you have, it may look something similar to this. You can see here that the sections correspond to the sections in the Word document. So when we created this report, we had two sections, one for damage table and one for the current data 3D view. Here are the corresponding sections in the report wizard up here. So you have some navigation tools here. You can either click next or previous at the bottom to move through the sections, or you can select them on the left-hand side of the screen. This section allows you to add images of the model to include in the report. This is only available if you have a view data type called out in whatever report template you're using to generate this. You can align the model and click the add button. Just a few notes on this before we move on. You can manipulate the model here on the right-hand side, just like you would anywhere else in the system. Once you get it aligned to the part of the aircraft you would want the image of, you would just hit the plus sign up at the top. You can also utilize the layers menu. So if you have a stored view or a named region you want to include on this report, you can select that from the layers tree over here. Just going back to the tags that we talked about, this screen is only available if you are using a view data type. If you want pictures of the model or anything, you have to make sure that's specifically called out in your report template. This section allows you to use a data set to choose what trendables should be shown in a table on the report. From this screen, you can select the data set you want to run, as well as edit or create a new one. Similar to the view data type, this is only available for the trending table data type that you would have to specifically call out in your report template. So when you finish making edits to the data set, all you have to do is click generate to finish the report. So I also wanted to point out, if you're having problems with formatting or anything and you wanted to see an example, we actually include those in the install of NLign. These files that we're looking at right here are located in the same file location as the NLign executable files. You can see we have examples of both Excel and Word document formats. So if you have questions about either one of those, you could reference these as an example. Okay, so we have an example problem here. This is telling us to create a Word document that will be our new report template. Then we need to upload the template to NLign and generate a new report. So this is going to be fairly basic. It's just asking us to add one model view and one trending table. So we're going to go ahead and open up a Word document so that we can start doing this. First, I'm going to do our model view. So I'm going to start off with my section header. At the very beginning, the first few slides of this, I mentioned there's a way that we have to start these tags. And the way that we do that is with a $ and an opening bracket. So we have to have a section in here so that NLign can actually read where we're at on the report. I'm going to start off with my section data type. We have to give it a label. That label is just going to equal UAV model. Okay. Then I just close my bracket, and that's it for that tag. So that tells NLign where we're at in our report. Next, I want to add like a static report header, so this will be displayed over our images. This is just going to be regular text. I want it to be bold. We're just going to call it UAV model. All right, change this back. So now I need to actually add my tag. with our view data type, our scope, and our trendable type. To do that, I'm going to do it similar to how we did our section, just a $ and an open bracket. I need to add our data type, which is going to be views. That indicates that we want an image of our model. We're going to give this a label. And that's just going to equal UAV model. We have to give it a scope. This is going to be reference trendable. And then we have to give it a trendable type. For this example, we're just going to do crack. And then I'm going to close my bracket. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, we do have to format these similar to how we actually want this to show up on the report. Before I move on to my table, I'm going to insert a page break. And now I need a new section so that the report knows, okay, we're in a new section of the report. We're doing something different. Similar to what I had up at the top. Money sign and an open bracket. I'm going to do section. We have to give it a label. And that's going to equal crack table. And we'll close it. And then just like up at the top, I want a static header that will look the same. I'm going to increase my font size and bold this. And we're just going to call it crack damage table. Back down to our normal size here. So now again, we have to write our actual tag. This one is a bit tricky as you have to know some things about your trendable type configuration. I'm writing this to show where our cracks are on the UAV model. I want to give it our XYZ location, our crack length, and what asset it's on. To do this, just like everything else, we're going to start off with a $ and an open bracket. And then my data type is going to be trending table. Obviously, we want this written into a table. NLign is going to generate that and put it into this report for us. I'm going to give this a label just so we know what table it is. Call this crack. And then our scope, I want the user to be able to define what's actually going into this table. I don't necessarily want them to just run a data set and pull everything in. My scope is going to be user defined. All right. My trendable type, we have to define here. We're going to say that is our crack. And then we have to give our column headers, okay? So obviously we're creating a table, we need columns, and we need to know what information is actually in there. To do that, it's pretty simple. It's just COL, and then the number of the column it is, and then what it's equal to. It has to equal something that actually exists in NLign, one of our fields. They have to line up so we know A, where this report is trying to pull the data from, and B, where it's going in the report. I know that we have location XIN. I know that that's one of our fields in NLign, so I can be reasonably safe punching that in here. Column 2 is going to be something similar. Column 3. And then I want my asset type. So column 4 is going to be asset type, and then column 5 is going to equal our crack length. Okay. And then one other attribute that we haven't really talked about that I'm going to include in here is has caption. We're going to set that equal to true. So that just means that we can add a caption to our table if we want. So now I'm just going to save this off. So again, to add our report templates, we're going to come up here to edit, down to report templates. I'm going to use the plus sign here to add the report template that we just created. So this is the one that I just wrote. Click that. We're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call this week 6 example, and I'll hit save. So you can see it shows up here in our management screen. I'm going to close this. And now all I have to do is run our report. So to do that, I'm going to use our report generator icon up here at the top. I'm going to double click week 6 example. It's going to read our template. It comes up with this list, our crack list, and this is in regards to that first tag that we created for the view. I said that our scope is going to be a reference trendable, so I have to indicate which trendable we're actually referring to. So I'm just going to use this top trendable here, hit select, and now our report generation wizard opens up. Like I said, what shows up here actually depends on the data types that are in our report template. This one is for our view data type. Like I said, we can add pictures of the model to our report, and you can utilize our layers tree. So I know that we have a good isometric view of the UAV here. If I click this, it takes me right to it. To add an image of this to our report, all I have to do is go back to camera poses and hit add and give this a name. Okay. So I now have an image of our model that is going to be fed into our report. Now I need to actually get our data. So I'm going to click next. And this takes us to our crack table. Now, right now, there's nothing in here. You can see those column headers that I wrote into the actual report template up here, though. So like I said, they have to match up with what's in NLign. NLign was able to recognize that these fields exist. Now we just have to give it information to feed into them. So for our data set up here, I'm going to select crack analysis. We have our crack length, our asset type, and then our XYZ locations. If I wanted to modify this, I can do it right from the report generation wizard with our editor tool here. It just takes you to our dataset editor window. Pretty intuitive. I can just click and drag fields as I want or modify it over here. I could also add a brand new dataset if I wanted to. Again, not going to do that. I'm just going to utilize this crack analysis here. So I have all my data. I have the view that I want. Now all I have to do is hit generate. And I'm going to save this as 6 example. And we can see here, I have that static header that I wrote in. I have the image of the model that I wanted. If we scroll down, there's that page break. Again, keep in mind your formatting with these. I have the static header to this table that I wrote in. And then I have my XYZ location, as well as the asset type and the crack length. So all those columns that I wrote into the actual report template are showing up. So this looks good. This is obviously a very rudimentary report. If you have existing reports or you wanted to create new ones using exclusively NLign data, that's also possible. You can add whatever formatting you want to these and can really leverage them to make them look great.
So as Chris was talking, he shared a couple of the main tags that you can put into a report. He talked about the trending table and the views. But there are a few other types of tags that you can put into a report. So there is the trending table, which basically allows you to replicate the results table that you would see in NLign. There is the FEM ID tag. So if you have loaded in a finite element model into NLign, that allows you to display which finite element IDs are affected by the trendable types in your report for that tag. There is the view tag. And the view tag allows you to take different 3D pictures of the CAD model. You can specify the height and width of that picture. You can specify how many pictures need to be taken in Microsoft Word and Excel. Another data tag is session file images. So if you have attached pictures of the defect type, you can attach that picture onto your report with that data tag. And then there are named value data tags. The named value basically takes a trendable, and let's say you're using Excel and you want to do some calculations. You can plop that into a specific cell and maybe do some extra calculations or something on that. Just wanted to point out over on the right in the user's guide, there are some columns that are helpful off to the right, where is it required for the specific data tag. So for example, on the trending table, it is not actually required to have a label to get a trending table into your template, but it is required to have a scope. And if your scope is a reference trendable, then you do need to have a trendable type specified as well. And then the last two columns are, is this attribute available in Microsoft Word, or is this attribute available in Microsoft Excel? For the most part, most of the attributes are available both in Microsoft Word and Excel, but there are a couple of exceptions. One that I'll highlight is for the view data tag. In Microsoft Word, you can specify a view data tag and add multiple pictures, but in Microsoft Excel, you have to put a new data tag for each view that you put. So there are a couple of minor differences between those data tags. So I just wanted to point you to this, kind of give you an idea of where it is. I just typed in report template into the search bar in the NLign Users Guide and then clicked on body tags. There are also some header tags if you're using Microsoft Word. And you can read through this to kind of go into depth. But I just wanted to point everyone to here, kind of go over a little bit, a broad overview of the different types of things that you can put into your templates, and make sure that you know where it is so you can reference it in the future when you're working on it. And as always, you know, if there's no questions now and you're doing this, say, a month or two later, and you've got some questions about how to set up your report, feel free to contact us as well, and we'll be happy to walk it through with you.